Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. Let me share with you the history of the Mother's Day. It was 1908. A woman by name Anna Jarvis started the Mother's Day. 6 years later, President Woodrow Wilson declared officially the Mother's Day in 1914. Since then, every year, second Sunday of the month of May is observed as Mother's Day. We have to honor our mothers, not on the Mother's Day only, but every day in our lives. We have to remember the sacrifices they made for us. Let me tell you a story. Mothers go above and beyond for their children. The cost of their love is priceless. A boy by name James has been doing favors for his mother. He felt he needed to be compensated. So he took a pen and wrote a list of the items that he did for his mother and priced them accordingly. One day, his mother was in the kitchen preparing the dinner. He climbed down the stairs, stood at the kitchen counter, and presented his mother the note in which he wrote the items. His mother opened the list and started reading. She was shocked as she was reading, and she folded it back and started writing. Then she started writing, I carried you 9 months in my tummy. The second one was, I woke up all the night when you were sick. And the third was, I bought you toys and all the other needs and etc. I bought you all these things, etc. and etc. And he said the total is 0. The boy looked at what his mother wrote. He hugged her and said, Mommy, I am very sorry. Thank you for your love. So friends, I want to tell you, we need to be thankful to our mothers. We need to honor our mothers. In Ephesians chapter 6 verse 1, Paul says, Children, obey your parents because you belong to the Lord. Honor your father and mother. This is the first commandment with a promise. If you honor your father and mother, things will go for you and you will have a long life on the earth. This is the first commandment with a promise. The promise is, all things will go well with you and you will have a long life, provided you honor your mothers and fathers. So this is the commandment with a promise. The Bible tells us to honor our parents. So I would like to introduce a young man in the Bible. It says, let's go to Philippians chapter 2 verse 19. I have no one else like him who genuinely cares about your welfare. So Paul is writing this letter to the church in Philippians. When he was writing this letter, he was under house arrest in Rome, and he was seeking the welfare of the church. So he wanted to know about how the church was doing. So he wanted to send someone else. Who should I send? He thought. Then this guy came to his mind. Who was he? It was none other than Timothy. He says, I have no one else like Timothy who genuinely cares about your welfare. So Timothy has a mind that cares about the welfare of the other people. Paul goes on to say like this, like a son with his father, he has served with me in preaching the good news. All others care for themselves and not for what matters to Jesus Christ. So Timothy has this good quality. He has the mind that Paul has. His mind is to care for the church. And the second one is he doesn't care about himself, but he cares about other people. He is like a son to Paul. And if you look at Acts chapter 16 verse 2, before we read this, I would like to tell you the background, the backdrop of what was going on. See, in the book of Acts, we see that Paul made 3 missionary journeys. In AD 47, he made the first missionary journey, and probably in that missionary journey, he might have met Timothy, a young man, and his mother Eunice, and his grandmother Lois. And they must have heard the gospel through Paul, and they must have become Christians. 3 years later, he made the second missionary journey, and he came to a place called Derbe and Lystra, and he would look, the writer of Acts was talking about Timothy, and he specified 3 things. Let's go to Acts chapter 16. Paul went first to Derbe and then to Lystra, where there was a young disciple. Here, the first thing he was talking about Timothy was he was a young man. Scholars say that he was probably 21 years old at the time. And then he was also known as disciple. When Paul met Timothy and his mother and his grandmother in the first missionary journey, they heard the gospel through Paul and they become converts. Maybe we can say they became Christians. But during after the lapse of 3 years, he was called a disciple. He became the disciple of Jesus Christ. He was a young man and he was a disciple. And the third thing is, Timothy was well thought of by the believers. So he was a respected believer by the other believers. Think about this, 21-year-old young man, he was well spoken of by the believers. He was a young man, and he became the disciple of Jesus Christ. And he has the mind that Paul has, because he thinks about the welfare of the church, not about himself. And he preached the gospel with Paul the apostle. So how did he, think about that, a young man, how did he become like this? Who influenced him? So let us go to 2 Timothy chapter 1. And Paul was in the prison called Mamertine in Rome. At any time, he would be executed. He was in his old age. At that time, he wrote a letter, second epistle to Timothy, and in that letter, he remembers some of the things. And let me read this. 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 5. I remember your genuine faith. Look at the word. He didn't say, I remember your faith. But he says, I remember your genuine faith. So it tells me that there are different kinds of faith. Genuine faith and not a genuine faith also. See, there are different kinds of faith. Some people have faith in the pastors, not in God. They have faith in the people. They believe they have faith in their pastors. And some people have faith in the doctor. But Timothy doesn't have that kind of faith. He has a genuine faith. That means he has faith in Jesus Christ. How did he get that faith? For you share the faith that first filled your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice. So he is saying that he shared that faith from his grandmother Lois and from his mother Eunice. So his mom and his grandmother were great faith warriors. They were genuine believers. They had a great impact on Timothy. And Paul says, and I know that same faith continues strong in you. So they have become a model to Timothy. So, my dear mothers, today I'm asking you this question. Are you a real good model to your children? See, children always imitate their parents. So, mother has a great influence, impact on the life of a child. So, I would like to ask you this question. What kind of impact do you have on your child? I remember one great woman, a woman of faith. I can also call her a prayer warrior. She was none other than my mother, Mrs. Sarojini Joshua. We were seven children, five brothers and two sisters. And my mother lost her husband, that is my father, in her early 30s, very young woman. And she had to take care of her seven biological children, besides 100 children in the children's home. And my mother used to get up very early in the morning and prayed for hours together. And I was on my bed and listening to her prayer. In every prayer, she used to pray like this: Heavenly Father, make my seven children seven stars and seven lamps. I did not understand why my mother praying like this to make her seven children seven stars and seven lamps. I did not understand that. Years later, I went to Kuwait for ministry. After the ministry, a couple came to me and invited me to their house to stay in their house that night and for dinner as well. So the following day, I was about to go. That woman came to me and said to me, Anna, that means brother, I remember Pedama praying like this. Pedama means my mother. Praying like this: Father, make my seven children seven lamps and seven stars. I did not understand why she was praying like that. I said to her, neither did I. Then she said to me, now I understand what she meant. I was looking at her curiously. Then she said, now I understand God made you a lamp and a star. So, my friends, I just want to tell you the power of prayer, the power of mother's prayer. It makes change in the lives of your children. So, I'm asking you this question: are you praying for your children? Are you praying for your children, for their future? As a mother, you need to pray for your children. I heard a story and I read about it, about a guy by name Peter Richley. It was in 1820. The ship that Peter Richley was sailing on sank, but he was rescued. By a strange twist of circumstances, the second ship also sank, but he was rescued. The third ship sank likewise. He was rescued for a third time. Yet his fourth ship of passage soon sank, and unbelievably, he was rescued fourth time. But the fifth time, the ship sank as well. The ocean liner, the city of Leeds, came by and answered his call for help. He was provided dry clothes. The ship's doctor, pronouncing him fit, asked him an unusual favor. He said to him, can you do me a favor? There was an old lady and she was dying. Since she knew all of us and you are new on the ship, can you pretend to be her son? Because she was longing to see her son before she dies. So the doctor escorted Peter to a bed on which an old lady with silver hair was lying. He looked at her. Peter richly looked at her, and she was suffering high fever. She was crying out, please God, let me see my son before I die. The doctor gently pushed Peter toward the bed. It was Sarah Richley. Peter began sobbing, and he lying on the bed was none other than his mother. She has been praying for him for 10 years to be reunited. The ship's doctor stood in amazement as he fell down by the bed and embraced the sick woman. He said, "I'm here, Mom. I'm here. It's me." Within days, the fever subsided and his mother awakened to find an answered prayer seated on the edge of her bed. My friend, see, she has been praying for 10 years for her son. She did not see him for 10 years. But though the 5 ships he was sailing on sank, God rescued him and got him reunited with his mother. That's the power of the prayer. So, my dear friends, as you're a mother, I challenge you, are you praying for your children so that they would become great vessels for God? I remember Susanna Wesley. She, before all the children, before going to the bed, she went to every child, laid her hands on them, and prayed for them. All of her children became great people of God. Your children can also become great people of God if you pray for them. God bless you.